Caroline McHenry. I'm the Managing Director of the HR Suite. We're HR consultants that Cork LEO have got in touch with to help bring you the most up-to-date and relevant advice to help you make informed decisions in these unprecedented times. We'd like to thank Paul and all the team in Cork LEO for organising these videos, and we hope that this video will be a help to you. So the first area we're going to look at is if your employees are still working, to remind you of your health and safety obligations under the Health and Welfare at Work Act to ensure that you provide a safe place of work for your employees. The first thing to look at is to ensure that if you have any vulnerable employees in the business, that you do a risk assessment with those. For example, they include people who might be pregnant, people who have underlying health conditions, and you make sure that in line with that risk assessment, you consider if you feel that you can do everything you can to ensure that they can be safely at work. If that isn't the case, you need to consider if you need the person to, for example, if they're pregnant, they might need to go on health and safety leave, etc. So look at it on a case-by-case basis and ensure you do the right thing. A lot of employees are saying, look, I want to stay at work because I need the money. Unfortunately, health and safety is going to trump everything because we don't want to put somebody at risk unnecessarily. The other key thing to remember is you need to ensure that you have all the measures in place around social distancing that you can. So things like ensuring that, for example, if people are working in a supermarket, they're working in a hotel, which potentially now the reception might be opened and a lot of the other elements of the business might be closed. So you have to look at each business in terms of what social distancing they're doing. So, for example, if you have people working in offices, you need to ensure the desks are far away enough from each other. If people are working in a supermarket or in a pharmacy, a lot of businesses are putting sneeze guards in place and they're putting markings on the floor to avoid people being any closer than the recommended distance. So think about what it is you're doing and can you do more. A lot of employees are also looking at remote working where that's feasible for certain jobs. So if you have remote working in place, please remember GDPR guidelines apply and you need to ensure that no breaches occur during this time. So again, remind people of your GDPR policy. I'm always saying that the two most important documents you have with your employees are your contract of employment and your staff handbook. So your contract of employment will outline all the key policies you have already. And in these times, you need to enhance your staff handbook by incorporating a new policy, which is your COVID-19 policy. This will bring a lot of the policies you already have together. For example, your absence policy, your sick policy. I would also recommend that you include the contact details in relation to what if somebody is unwell, what the steps are they need to do, and also the other relevant policies like working from home, GDPR, etc. So again, that should be a detailed policy and all staff should receive it and you can update that on an ongoing basis. So that's staff that are at work at the moment that you need to consider. And the next thing we want to consider is if those staff that are at work at the moment feel that they might be a suspected case, what do we do? So we know at the moment there's about 1,000 different bugs and germs out there, and these are the normal ones that are in place at this time of year. So people will get normally sick, and it's important that if they're not feeling well, that they would follow the normal guidelines. If they have symptoms associated with COVID-19, that they're clearly advised not to turn into work and instead contact their GP. When they contact their GP, the GP will put them in touch with the public health, and public health will talk to the person to decide if their symptoms warrant them going into self-isolation or quarantine, or indeed if it warrants them getting tested. If the employee gets tested, public health will organise for the test to be done, and then they get the test results a while later. So when they get the test results, if it is negative, they follow the advice in terms of whether or not they're fit to return to work, or if they have other health conditions, for example, it was the flu they had, they might need a few days off to recover from that. Remember, all absence needs to be medically certified if the person is unwell. And if the person is confirmed as positive and having the coronavirus, then we need to ensure they follow the correct advice from public health. And it is public health that will advise whether they recover at home, whether they go to hospital, etc. And public health will also contact you as their employer. And when they contact you as their employer, they will identify any potential close contacts that they've had within the work environment that may need to go into self-isolation and potentially may need also to be tested. So it is public health that will advise you who these people are, and they will also contact those staff members to tell them what they need to do. It is not you as the employer who starts the contact tracing process, and it is crucially important you remember that. Another key thing for you to remember is your GDPR obligations in relation to people's medical conditions and their health conditions. You can't let people know if somebody, for example, has a suspected case, or indeed that they're getting tested, or indeed that they're confirmed, unless you're telling the close contacts and you've agreed that with the public health. So it's very important that you remember your obligations in this regard. So the other area I want to cover off in this video is in relation to the pubs, for example, and other businesses out there that have had to consider short time, layoff, or indeed redundancy. So short time is when you have to reduce somebody's hours by more than half, or reduce their pay to more than half. So if that occurs, then the person will be notified of the short time, and there's a short time support available, which is pro rata, which is the €203 that's available for people who are on layoff. If you need to consider layoff, this means that the employee would have no work for the current time. So we're advising that you would do no more than 2 weeks at a time, because obviously things are changing from a business perspective. And also remember, layoff is short term, and obviously we're hoping that we'll weather the storm in the coming weeks, and then we're going to be back to normal. So if you're following short time and layoff, remember both need to be outlined in your contract of employment. If you're laying somebody off contractually without pay, you need to make sure your contract allows for that. Because what we don't want is for there to be potential claims after the layoff period. So make sure you follow the guidelines correctly in that regard. If you put somebody on layoff, you pause their contract of employment, and ultimately then it restarts when the person comes back. The final option available to you is to make staff redundant. If somebody has been on layoff for more than 4 weeks, they can request redundancy from the company. And if you can't guarantee within 4 weeks that you will have 13 continuous weeks work for them, they will be eligible for redundancy. There's a lot of bodies lobbying the government to get this measure changed at the moment, due to the concern associated with cash flow, etc., for many businesses who are currently closed, but no, they will be opening again after the coronavirus crisis subsides. So there are the 3 key pieces of advice. In relation to the payments, if somebody is on layoff, they get the €203 emergency COVID-19 payment. Employers are being encouraged to pay this to the employee and claim it back afterwards. Alternatively, if the company is not in a position to do that, the employee can apply for this emergency payment directly themselves. We're also encouraging, because this payment is only for 6 weeks, that employees would also register with mygov.ie to get their accounts set up in case they need to apply for job seekers benefit or job seekers allowance, or indeed family supplement thereafter. So there's a lot of information in this video for you to consider. I would recommend that you ensure you have all the information available, that you review your contract of employment with your employees, and you ensure you have your COVID-19 policy up to date and in place before you do any of the above. If you are going down the road of short time, layoff, or indeed redundancy, remember they all require a legal basis, and it's crucially important you follow the correct process to be legally compliant in this regard. It's uncharted waters for everybody, Many people will never have been in this situation before, both employees and employers. So I would encourage you all to try and be as calm as you can, try and take measured business decisions, and above all, be kind and patient and sympathetic with your employees, and vice versa, employees with their employers, because this is a very challenging and unprecedented time for everybody. I would like to thank Cork LEO and the team there for organising this video, and I hope it has provided clear, accurate and timely information to help you with your business decisions in the current uncharted waters we all find ourselves in. We're the HR Suite, and you'll find us online. There's lots of information which will help you in these times that we're updating on all our social media accounts on a regular basis. So please stay in touch, and I wish you the very best of luck in these times.